welcome to our first podcast for Tomaree High for 2021. This is an initiative that we'd like to see occurring mostly weekly throughout the year. I have with me Mr. Colley, who's our Deputy Principal, and over the various weeks we will have our other Deputy Principals and other members of staff will have an opportunity to speak to you about what's happening here at Tomaree High School. I'll pass over to Mr. Colley now. He's just going to talk to you briefly about our PBL expectations.
Yeah, thank you, Sue. So I guess a weekly segment will be on our Pbl Values, and the first 2 weeks of this term we had a refresher in week one about what our Pbl values were, and they are standing around respect, responsibility and success. So students were given that refresher around being rewarded for that positive behaviour in classrooms, and those tickets go into a draw each term for major prizes of students that display those each and every day. Week 2, our Pbl lesson focus was on vaping. Unfortunately, vaping is a situation that's impacting on young people not only around our country but around the world, and we certainly wanted to educate young people around the harmful impacts on what vaping has not only at school but in our community, and then for them to make positive choices, I guess, moving forward into the future. One initiative that the Pbl team has formulated in Term 2 has created a Pbl roll call. So a group of students each and every week that discuss matters involving the school, and then obviously Pbl lessons will be created each Wednesday to educate our students on what positive behaviour looks like here. So they're our values for the first 2 weeks. I'll hand over to Ms. Senos now for the next segment.
Okay, I'm just going to briefly talk about how we can work in partnership, and each podcast will be a section on what we can do together as a school community. I think it's very important that we start to cultivate our student voice, that they have a say in what goes on. They're here for 6 years after all. At the moment we have 3 main areas that we'd really like the community support. One is in terms of equipment, making sure your young people arrive at school equipped, pen, pencil, laptop, whatever it is needed, and if there's any issues with providing those, please do not hesitate to contact the relevant deputy or your advisor so we can support you in that. The same vein is uniform, making sure our young people are in uniform. Overall, our uniform standard is quite high at Tomaree High School, especially since the introduction of our fabulous hoodie 2 years ago. That has really improved our winter uniform. Once again, any issues with having your students into uniform, please see your deputy or your advisor for additional support. And our final area that we really are trying to focus on this term is about lateness to class. We're also looking at lateness to school in general, and you may have seen a previous podcast I sent out regarding some of your feedback. But if you can be reminding your children that really getting to class on time is a lifelong skill and something that we believe is very, very important. And if we can all work together for those 3 things, having students equipped, in uniform and on time to class, we're going to get a much better level of engagement. We have a couple of events coming up in our school calendar that you need to be aware of, and each week in the podcast we'll remind you of some things that are coming up. First one being NAPLAN, which is operating starting in week 3 and 4. The exact dates will be issued to you very shortly. That's for years 7 and 9. The next one is our parent-teacher evenings on the 6th of May and the 20th of May. You would have received notification about that through Facebook, and you book online through our Millennium portal. We really look forward to seeing a number of parents here. And then we have another parent-teacher evening for those of you who may be watching this with students coming into year 7 next year on the 10th of May at approximately 5:30 for an information session. So we look forward to seeing parents at all those events and students ready for the major event of NAPLAN. I'll hand back over to Mr. Colley.
Yeah, each week on the podcast we'd like to create, I guess, a segment around what's happening in the school, and we certainly wanted to start with the student body. We've got a wonderful student body here at school through our Student Representative Council, and I'd like to introduce Caitlin Maddox, who's a very active member of our Student Representative Council. Welcome, Caitlin. So I guess I've got a couple of questions for you for our community to understand what the SRC is. Can you detail what the SRC is here at Tomaree High School?
Hi, so the SRC stands for Student Representative Council, and our main goal is to be the student voice within the school. The SRC plays a huge role in the behind the scenes of the school. We help improve classrooms and the playground, we run fundraisers to support local charities, we work on major projects like the school's memorial garden, and a ton of other things.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think the most important part is, what are the Student Representative Council focuses for Term 2?
So our major fundraiser this term is PJ Day. We have yet to decide on a charity to support with the funds raised. So if anyone has any ideas, feel free to let us know. Once again, the roll call games are starting back up again on Monday the 3rd, so students will be able to participate in those. The main focus this term is the previously mentioned improvement to the classrooms, playground and memorial garden.
Yeah, and thank you. And we want to make sure that in future, Caitlin and other students lead the podcast. And I think it's really important that students become our main communicators with our community moving forward. So well done. You've done extremely well today. Just to wrap up our first edition, a couple other matters just to remind you, we run our after school study club on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So all students are welcome to come straight after school till about 5 o'clock. And I guess next week's focus around the school will be looking at the student achievements, not only representing our school, but in the community with sport. So we look forward to our next edition of our podcast, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.